President-elect Joe Biden is expected to announce Janet Yellen as his pick for Treasury Secretary. Yellen would be the first woman to lead the Treasury Department at the age of 74, and she was also the first woman to serve as the chair of the Federal Reserve from 2014 to 2018. Meantime, the president-elect unveiled his national security team, starting with Antony Blinken, nominated for Secretary of State. Blinken previously served as Deputy Secretary of State during the Obama administration. That is the nation's second highest-ranking diplomat. He's also held top foreign affairs posts on Capitol Hill, the White House, and the State Department. Next is Alejandro Mayorkas, was nominated for Secretary of Homeland Security. He served as Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security under the Obama administration. If nominated, he would be the first immigrant and first Latino to lead that department. And Avril Haines was nominated for Director of National Intelligence. Haines was formerly the Principal Deputy National Security Advisor to President Obama. Haines would be the first woman to hold that post. President-elect Biden also nominated Linda Thomas Greenfield as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Linda Thomas is a 35-year veteran of the U.S. Forest Service. And former Secretary of State John Kerry, who signed the Paris Climate Agreement on behalf of the United States back in 2015, has been nominated to a new post, the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. And Jake Sullivan is nominated as National Security Advisor. Sullivan previously worked as Biden's National Security Advisor when he was Vice President.
The team put together by President-elect Biden will help shape American policies, of course, in the years ahead. A couple firsts being broken there with that group of people. Correspondent Joe Khalil joining us live from Washington, D.C. with more clearly an emphasis on diversity in these choices named today. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Rob. Absolutely. A stronger sense of diversity there. And, you know, we're trying to answer the question, really, what this administration is going to look like in terms of its direction. So we look at the names and the people, the profiles you just highlighted, but we also look at the order in which they were released. I think it's telling that the first names that were all made public were all on national security. So right away, that gives you an idea of where the priorities lie for the incoming Biden administration. But as we begin to look at all of their views, all of their public statements, it starts to paint a picture of what the administration is actually going to look like. By naming some key cabinet members, President-elect Joe Biden may have signaled what his incoming administration's priorities will be.
President-elect Biden is trying to show the primacy that he's going to give to national security matters.
Glenn Johnson, a senior advisor to then Secretary of State John Kerry, says Biden's choice to fill that role, Tony Blinken, sends a message to our allies.
It's going to be more of a return to sort of classic diplomatic engagement. That's what Joe Biden has always believed in. That's what Tony Blinken has practiced.
A contrast to President Trump's America First policy, which resisted international organizations and treaties like the World Health Organization, the Paris Climate Accords, and NATO. Johnson says it's helpful that many of Biden's choices served in previous administrations.
These positions are incredibly grueling. The challenges come at you on a 24/7 basis, and it's not a great time to have on-the-job training.
You want people with experience from a prior administration and people who have also developed those sort of relationships internationally that can be very beneficial.
Dr. Todd Belt, director of the George Washington School of Political Management, says the diversity of the cabinet choices could be an asset internationally.
It's not going to be a bunch of old white guys talking to you, that it may be some people who look like you and the people where you're from. And that does lend some credibility.
Belt also says Biden's naming John Kerry as special presidential envoy for climate raises the importance of the issue.
That really elevates the topic in the administration. This is a key concern of the incoming president.
Some Republicans, including Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, took issue with Biden's picks, saying in a tweet, quote, as former Secretary of Defense Bob Gates said, Joe Biden has been wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. Meantime, high-profile Democrats praised Biden's choices. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said they bring, quote, a legacy of unmatched diplomatic achievements to the critical mission of keeping the American people safe. Now, what we haven't seen yet is Joe Biden pick a Republican to occupy one of these spots in his cabinet. We are expecting that he may do that at some point, so that's going to be what we keep a lookout. What position that may be and which Republican he may pick. Certainly that may anger some of the more progressives in the party, but that's something that, again, is widely expected for President-elect Biden to do. Reporting live tonight in Washington, D.C., Joe Khalil, News Nation.